Hi there, Sparkrock community. We're introducing a new feature for our larger customers who have a lot of seasonal or contractual roles that change or end at the same time. A great example of this is large school boards. There could be hundreds of employees on temporary contracts that leave at the end of June and return at the beginning of September. Or there could be educational assistants that temporarily transfer to other locations or functions for a period of time and then return to their previous roles. These and other examples involve large-scale changes that need to happen in a single day. Sparkrock 365 has a feature for mass changes called the HR Request Worksheet, but it was missing a few features to make it work well for these types of leaves and transfers until now. In this video, we're going to introduce the new temporary transfer HR reason code, take you through enhancements to the HR Request Worksheet, demonstrate some new features on the HR Request inbox, and show you how to get email notifications when HR requests are processed. Let's get started. Sparkrock 365 has long had a transfer HR reason code. The employee will be transferred from one HR position to another, but there's no return back to their original position. This means that to return an employee back, you'd need to do a second transfer, which is double the work, and it adds up when there are a lot of employees. To improve this, we've created a new HR reason code called temporary transfer. Fill out the effective date of the transfer, select the employee, and then go to the HR request details. On the details screen, you select the assignment that you want to transfer from. The assignment end date and calculation end date are required. We'll keep them the same and then select the HR position code that we want to do the temporary transfer to. Everything else on the screen works as if you're doing a normal transfer. Once the details are set, when you select Process, you can see that there is a line for Insert Return Entry. When you process this HR request, it'll create an additional assignment entry for the return transfer on the end date that you selected on the details screen, and create a scheduled task to switch it back. And in keeping with the theme of this feature release, the new temporary transfer HR reason code has been added to the HR Request Worksheet, so you can do multiple temporary transfers at once. Let's take a look at that HR Request Worksheet now. Traditionally, the HR Request Worksheet has supported things like mass hires, mass terminations, detail changes, add assignments, and similar functions. But there were some HR reason codes that the HR Request Worksheet did not support. So with this feature release, the HR Request Worksheet now supports transfer, the new temporary transfer, on leave, and teacher on leave. So let's do an example of on leave with the HR Request Worksheet now supports. Select Load Lines, and then select On Leave for the HR reason code. Choose an effective date. For on-leave HR reason codes, there's a new Set Active FTE to Leave FTE switch. If it's enabled, the value of active FTE is moved to Leave FTE. So for example, if before the leave the employee has an active FTE of 1 and this flag's enabled, then when you load the lines of the HR Request Worksheet, active FTE becomes 0 and Leave FTE is set to 1. Choose the cause of inactivity, and any other fields that apply to this leave. Then choose your filter to select any employees or positions, or any other filter that applies. Now I can process all lines, or process selected lines to create the HR requests from the worksheet without having to create them all one by one. One additional change to the HR Request Worksheet. Under the Share menu, previously only Open in Excel was available. Now, if your user has the appropriate rights and the Dynamics Excel plugin, Edit in Excel is supported with the HR Request Worksheet. This release also introduces productivity enhancements to the HR Request inbox to allow the user to view more details of the HR request in question without having to manually open each request. Previously, the inbox showed basic information about the request, employee, and position. Now, a whole bunch of new columns have been added. So for example, active FTE, pay type, pay grid, pay grade, pay step, amount, hours per day, hours per week, location code, calculation start date, calculation end date, assignment start date, assignment end date, created by user ID, leave FTE, cause of inactivity, from HR position code, active HR pay code, and leave HR pay code are now available. If you don't want some or all of these new columns, you can go to Settings, Personalize it to turn them on or off. In addition, the HR inbox table is now editable. If you need to change something, you don't have to open up each record one by one. You can change the HR request right there in the list on the HR Request inbox page, as long as the HR request doesn't have any process steps. If process steps are greater than 0, the fields aren't editable. Speaking of processing, here's another productivity improvement for the HR Request inbox. You can now change the HR request status and batch process HR requests right from the HR request inbox page. Select Actions and then Batch Process HR Requests, and the Batch HR Processing report will come up. You can then process the select HR request without having to navigate to another screen to do it. And you can also use this to change the status. Run Batch HR Processing again, but this time enable Move to Next Status. This will cycle it between Open, Pending HR Action, Pending Payroll Action, and Completed. So for example, running this moved it to Pending HR Action, and if we run it again, it now moves it to Pending Payroll Action. The HR Request inbox becomes your true hub for working with unprocessed HR requests. You may have some users who wish to be notified by email when their HR requests have been processed. There are 2 places to set this up. First, go to Tell Me and open up the User Setup page. There's a new checkbox column, Receive Notifications for Processed HR Requests. This will choose which users should receive notifications about their own HR requests. They won't get spammed with every HR request in the system, it just notifies them of their own. Next, go to HR Reason Codes, and there's a new column called Send Notifications for Processed HR Requests. Check the HR reason codes you want notifications to go out for. Maybe you only want to be notified for certain ones, but you can check them all if you'd like. Once these are set, the relevant users will be notified when HR requests with the relevant HR reason codes have been processed. Those are the new HR request enhancements in Sparkrock 365. We're excited about these productivity enhancements, and if you deal with a lot of HR requests, we think you will be too. Thanks so much for watching.